The year was 1944. Europe was a crucible of fire and steel, and the skies above France were a brutal, chaotic battleground. Every single day, young men, barely out of their teens, climbed into the cramped cockpits of their fighter planes, knowing full well that some of them would not be coming home. Among these brave souls was Flight Lieutenant William Carter, a 26-year-old Spitfire pilot from Kent, England. He wasn't just any pilot. With 37 combat missions under his belt, Carter was a seasoned veteran, one of the most skilled and reliable escorts in his squadron. He had a reputation for staying cool under pressure and for always watching his wingman's back. But on August 13, 1944, something happened in the swirling clouds over Normandy. Something that would defy explanation for decades to come. The morning began like any other wartime dawn. Carter's squadron received their orders. Intercept a group of German Focke-Wulf 190s that were attacking an Allied convoy near the city of Caen. The weather was far from ideal. Visibility was poor, with thick, low-hanging clouds blanketing the landscape. But this was just another day at the office for these pilots. As he strapped himself into his Spitfire, Carter flashed a confident smile to his comrades and radioed a cheerful, "See you at tea, boys." The powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engines roared to life, and one by one the Spitfires lifted off, disappearing into the grey, misty sky. Within minutes they were completely engulfed in a fog so dense it felt like flying through smoke. The world outside their canopies vanished. They were flying blind, relying entirely on their instruments and the crackle of their radios. Suddenly their radar screens flickered with faint, fast-moving blips. Enemy fighters closing in rapidly. The air erupted into a storm of chaos. Tracer fire like deadly red fingers sliced through the mist. The radio channels exploded with frantic calls. "Bandits, 2 o'clock high. I can't see them, watch your 6. He's on my tail, I can't shake him." In the heart of the swirling dogfight, Carter saw one of his wingmen in trouble, with an enemy fighter locked onto his tail. Without hesitation, he banked his Spitfire hard, diving into the thickest part of the cloud to help. And that was the last anyone ever saw of him. His radio went silent. His wingman, who managed to escape, later reported, "He just vanished into the clouds and never came out." For days, search and rescue teams scoured the French countryside. They searched every field, every forest, every marsh. But they found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no parachute. Not a single trace of Flight Lieutenant William Carter or his Spitfire. He was officially declared missing in action, presumed killed. The war eventually ended. The world began the slow, painful process of rebuilding. But for the Carter family back in Kent, there was no closure, no peace. William's mother refused to give up hope. She kept his room exactly as he had left it. His uniform was freshly pressed and hanging in the wardrobe. His medals were polished and gleaming on the dresser, and his leather flight cap sat waiting on his nightstand. Every year, on the evening of August 13th, she would light a single candle in the window, a small beacon of hope against the darkness for the son who disappeared into the clouds. 30 years passed. An entire generation grew up in a world at peace. Then, in the summer of 1974, a French farmer named Luc Moreau was plowing his field near the small village of Saint-Pierre-sur-Dive, not far from where the dogfight had taken place. His tractor struck something hard and metallic, buried deep beneath the soil. At first, he assumed it was just another piece of forgotten wartime scrap metal, common in the area. But curiosity got the better of him. He grabbed a shovel and started to dig. As he cleared away the earth, he uncovered the unmistakable shape of an aircraft's wing, still bearing the faded red, white, and blue roundel of the Royal Air Force. Moreau immediately contacted the authorities. Within hours, a military recovery team arrived and began a careful excavation. As they dug deeper, clearing away the mud and soil that had entombed the aircraft for 3 decades, they unearthed the fuselage, then the cockpit. And inside they found something both chilling and astonishing. The pilot was still sitting in his seat, perfectly preserved by the oxygen-poor mud, his gloved hands still gripping the control stick. The plane's serial number was checked against wartime records. There was no doubt it was the lost Spitfire of Flight Lieutenant William Carter. But as the investigators examined the site, the discovery only deepened the mystery. Nothing made sense. The aircraft was almost completely intact. There was no evidence of a fire, and no signs of a catastrophic crash impact. The propeller blades were bent backward, a telltale sign that the engine was turning very slowly, or perhaps not at all, when it hit the ground. It was as if the plane had simply landed gently and then sunk into the soft, swampy soil, which sealed it like a time capsule. Even stranger, when they examined Carter's personal effects, they found his wristwatch had stopped at exactly 3:19 p.m., the very same minute his squadron had reported losing radio contact with him all those years ago. And then came the most baffling clue of all. The Spitfire's fuel tanks were still half full. He had more than enough fuel to disengage from the fight and fly back to his base in England. So why didn't he? Why did he land here, in the middle of a French field? Re-examining the old mission logs from that day, investigators stumbled upon a cryptic, almost forgotten detail. Moments before he vanished, Carter had transmitted one last strange message over the radio. It wasn't a call for help or a report of enemy positions. He had said, "There's something wrong with the light up here. It's not the sun." No one in his squadron understood what he meant. At the time, it was dismissed as the confused words of a pilot under extreme stress. But now it seemed to hold a darker significance. Some other pilots who flew missions that same afternoon had later reported seeing strange, inexplicable flashes in the sky over Normandy. Like lightning, they said, but silent. When William Carter's remains were finally returned to England, his funeral was attended by thousands. Veterans, townspeople, and officials came to pay their respects. He was buried with full military honors, a hero finally brought home. His mother, now 83 years old, was there. After 30 long years of waiting, she could finally lay her candle and her son to rest. The story of the Ghost of Normandy, as it came to be known, became a legend among historians and aviation enthusiasts. For the pilots who had served, it was a sobering reminder of the thin, fragile line between life and death, of how easily a man could simply vanish between the clouds and the silence. But the story doesn't quite end there. In the 1980s, locals living near the crash site began reporting a strange phenomenon. On quiet, misty nights, some claimed to hear the faint, distant hum of a single propeller engine. Farmers swore they could hear it circling high above the fields where Carter's plane was found, before fading away into the night. No radar ever picked up an aircraft. No official explanation was ever found. But some people say that on certain nights, when the fog rolls in thick from the coast, if you stand in that old field and listen very, very carefully, you can still hear the ghost of Flight Lieutenant William Carter, his Merlin engine humming softly, forever searching for his way home. History remembers the heroes who lived to tell their tales. But sometimes it's the ones who vanished that leave behind the greatest stories of all. He flew into the clouds and in a way became a part of them forever. What do you think really happened to William Carter? Was it a bizarre weather event, a malfunction, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. We're going to be digging deeper into this, looking at modern scientific analysis of the site and other unexplained wartime disappearances. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because you won't want to miss part 2. Thanks for watching.